The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus took Peter, James, and his brother John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, conversing with him. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud cast a shadow over them. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell prostrate and were very much afraid. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise and do not be afraid. And when the disciples raised their eyes, they saw no one else but Jesus alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, Do not tell the vision to anyone until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord.
This has absolutely nothing to do with the homily, but it makes my heart warm because I've been in a few other churches, and we have what's called the corner people, and the corner people get to the corner of their pew, and that's their spot. And if they get there early and get that corner. When some folks who might be coming in a little bit later because, they got stuck in traffic or had trouble getting their Cracker Barrel on time or whatever, they come rolling in and, one of the ushers goes like that. And then the corner people will look up at them and go, you disgust. Like, I'm not going to stand up. I'm not going to scoot over. I'm just going to sit here and you're going to crawl over me. I don't see that here. And that's very nice. Very welcoming. So thank you for those corner people who aren't so tied to their corner. It's a 2-story homily today. Not that it's 2 stories tall, but I got 2 stories at the beginning. It was probably about 3 years ago, and I don't think it was COVID yet. But I got a call to go anoint a parishioner who was ill, and I got the address, and I didn't realize that until I got there that there was no. I got the address, but it was an apartment complex. It wasn't a complex. It was 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. So that's not too complex. But I get there and I realized that the person who gave me the message did not give me the apartment number. And this is a part of town I'd never been in before. But I've been in parts of town that are like this, the northwest part, northeast part of Philadelphia, southwest part of Philadelphia. So I was used to these environs, as they say. And so I pull up and I park and I look around and and I figured, here's some good Catholic folks sitting there. It's about 10:30 in the morning. I'm like, they got to be Catholic because they're drinking beer, at 10:30 out of a paper bag. These are my people. Right? I'll get out of the car, and I said, hey. And they said, hey. And I said, I'm looking for, and they said, are you coming to see so-and-so? I'm like, yeah, I am. They're like, is he okay? I'm like, I don't know, but I hope so. I think I need to come here and speak with him. And I said, do you know which apartment he's in? And one of the ladies says, yeah, it's right down here. I'll go with you. And there's this joker back in the back. They were sitting in this breezeway. He's like, the Son of Man is here. The Son of God is here. The Son of God is here. I'm like, all right. Like, yeah, you're close, but I got a little bit to work on. So anyway, we go over there and knock on the window, knock on the door, trying to get this guy. So now I'm starting to think, uh-oh. But eventually I hear somebody through the window. It's like, hello. I'm like, hey, so-and-so, it's Father Doug. I've come to give you the sacrament of the sick. I've come to anoint you. And he's like, I'm not dressed. Can you do it through the window? And I'm like, bro, this is not how this works. So about 20 minutes later, he had managed to get himself dressed, and I went in there and laid hands on him and anointed him, and then got the heck out of there as fast as I could. But it's a very intimate thing when you anoint someone, when you lay hands on them, and you pray over them. You put your hands on their head, and then you anoint them on the forehead and on the palms of their hands. And if you've ever been anointed, people say it's a powerful thing. I don't know if everybody experiences it the same way, but I've been anointed because I'm falling apart piece by piece. So I've been anointed, several times. And then there is something about that touch, that physicality that makes a difference. Story number 2. This is during COVID. This was right at the beginning of COVID. Now, one thing about being a priest is, number one, people generally laugh at your jokes, which is cool. And generally people don't tell you no, which you can kind of get used to, which can be a little bit dangerous, right? It's a thing called clericalism. We don't want to get that. But usually, especially like when we go to hospitals, we're kind of given, for the most part, pretty free rein to go do what we need to do when we need to do it. And they taught us in my chaplaincy, don't ever act like you're not any more important than a doctor or a nurse. You go in there and tell them what you're going to do, and you're going to do it. So, and that's pretty much what I've done. And it's fine, right? They accept that. They appreciate us being there. Right there at the beginning of COVID, when all the rules were changing, I got a call from a lady who said, my husband's sick. And he's in the emergency room at so-and-so. Can you come and anoint him? I'm like, absolutely. So I head over there, get in, walk in, and I said, I need to go see so-and-so in bed too. He's like, you can't go back. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you can't go in there. Like, I got to anoint him. The family called me to come visit them. You can't go back. And now I'm starting to steam. And like, nobody tells me no. And then I call his wife. And she comes out, and she goes, well, yeah, it's okay for him to come back. And he's like, he can't go back. And now I'm just like, don't tell me what to do. Because it's such an important part, again, of the anointing and the sacrament is to be able to lay hands on people. Well, come to find out, over the next year and a half, guess what I was doing? I wasn't laying a whole lot of hands on people, right? I was praying through a window. Some guys did sacrament of the sick for an entire nursing home standing outside of it. Now, does God provide in that circumstance? Absolutely. Now, the reason I tell you these two stupid stories is to bring you back to the gospel. When I read the gospel this week, some things stood out to me. And one thing that stood out to me really just hit me in the head. And I've written a paper on this, and I've read it 100 times. When it says, Jesus came and touched them. Right? His boys were freaked out over what they were seeing, and legitimately so. And you see magicians and people are like on TV, they just do this. Right? Magical hand waving. Well, it was also very physical. Jesus said, when we hear in the gospel, he took them, he led them, he was transfigured, he touched them, they listened. These are all parts of human attributes that connect us to Jesus. God is the hand waver, right? God is the one, I think about you, therefore you exist. And we are all human, right? We don't get to go, I think about you and you cease to exist. I know a lot of you would like to do that to a lot of politicians, but it doesn't work. Because I'm sure you've tried. Anyway, but you can't do that, right? So then we have to have Jesus who comes in the middle to make that connection between the hand waving and the laying on of hands, and the touching, and the physical, the leading, the listening. But most of all, in the receiving of the Eucharist. Right? God could do the hand-waving thing, but He understands that we have to connect in a very real way to Jesus Christ, and through Jesus Christ to Him. And that's why we have the Eucharist. That's why we receive the physical body and blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. That's why we hear the Word in our ears, so we can listen and take it in that way. So we're getting it here, and we're getting it here. And the whole idea of bringing that tactile sense together with the spiritual is that's the only way that we can get there, right? It's through Jesus that we get to heaven. So this week, think about the opportunities that you have to touch someone, literally, physically, morally. But think about it, right? And then also when you have the opportunity to listen or to lead someone, you're doing what Jesus did, and you're doing what Jesus wants us to do so that we can make that connection, that perfect bond, to be perfect as our Father is perfect.